Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for all things giallo here on The King in Giallo. Our next stop on our journey through giallo cinema is the first giallo film of 1965, directed by Ernesto Gastaldi. This video will cover some technical aspects surrounding the film and its production, as well as its reception. Nothing too laden in my opinions just yet. That will follow in my review video next time. This video will be spoiler-free, so enjoy. Here is Libido Overview. Libido is directed by Ernesto Gastaldi, billed as Julian Barry, and by Vittorio Salerno, billed as Victor Storff. Gastaldi also produced the film and wrote the screenplay along with Salerno. The film stars Giancarlo Giannini as Christian, Dominique Boschero as Helene, Mara Merrill as Brigitte, and Luciano Pigozzi as Paul. For the sake of this video, I will be pronouncing the names in English. The plot follows Christian, who as a child was traumatized by the witnessing of his father murdering a young woman. Now as an adult, 20 years later, Christian hopes to conquer his trauma by journeying back to the scene of the crime to once and for all leave what is plaguing him in the past. Along for the ride is his new wife, Helena, and his legal guardian, Paul, and Paul's wife, Bridget. Right away, the group seems beset by strange occurrences in the house, which may or may not be paranormal, forcing Christian to fear that he will follow down the same dark path as his father. Is it all real, or is someone orchestrating these events in order to drive Christian insane? The film was actually all the result of a bet, like so many other cinematic masterpieces like Manos: The Hands of Fate. Ernesto Gastaldi overheard Luciano Martino and his partner Mino Loy talking over the prospects of making a film, and Gastaldi spoke up to take on the part of director, knowing his wife at home, Mara Merrill, longed to be an actor. Gastaldi even based the premise off of an idea his wife had come up with and incorporated heavy Freudian overtones whilst trapping the plot's four main characters in a locale both isolated yet scenic. The film incorporates a good deal of the giallo tropes currently in use, while managing to focus most of its running time on the characters and the mood. Despite being a tad talky, the film is steeped in hypnotic atmosphere and demands to be viewed by giallo fans. In the decades after its release, it was very difficult for English-speaking audiences to find a copy of the movie, until the recent Blu-ray release by Severin Films. With co-director and co-writer Vittorio Salerno, Gastaldi set out to make his debut film. The two wrote the script based on the idea by Mara Merrill. Vittorio's brother was actor Enrico Maria Salerno, who was offered the role of Paul, but Enrico, seeing that this picture was being actualized right before his eyes, and this reality would mean his brother would be a director before he proposed to play Paul as a monster with a hooked right hand and blind in one of his eyes. Very mature. Ernesto agreed, but made the call to Luciano Pigozzi, the man who would ultimately take the role of Paul. Vittorio was no help for Ernesto in dealing with Enrico's ideas, but Ernesto had his back to the wall, being a novice director, but his lack of experience in directing would be completely nullified by his masterful understanding and handling of the material. The film's pacing may be slow, but it is deliberate in how it unfolds the action, and always maintains the audience's attention while it sets up its shocks and twists, all in an atmosphere of claustrophobia. Born in 1934, Gastaldi at an early age became consumed with film and literature, and eventually went to Centro Sperimentale di Cinematografica, where he directed a short entitled La strada che portava lontano, which Gastaldi proudly claimed to be, quote, the first real Italian thriller filmed in 1954. Unfortunately, the short did not receive any theatrical release and has since faded into obscurity. In the 1960s, Gastaldi became a screenwriter and a novelist, where he wrote such scripts as The Vampire and the Ballerina, 1960, directed by Renato Pozzelli. Werewolf in a Girl's Dormitory, 1961, directed by Paolo Heusch. The Terror of Dr. Hitchcock, 1962, directed by Riccardo Frida. The Whip and the Body, 1963, directed by Mario Bava. And The Long Hair of Death, 1964, directed by Antonio Margheriti. Gastaldi wrote and worked on every big genre, from spaghetti westerns and spy thrillers to gothic horror and pepla, or sword and sandal epics. His best work as a writer is probably without a doubt his giallo scripts, which include So Sweet, So Perverse, 1969, The Strange Vice of Mrs. Worth, 1971, The Case of the Bloody Iris, 1972, and The Suspicious Death of a Minor, 1975, plus many, many more. Vittorio Salerno was born in 1938 and wrote about a dozen scripts, including helping Gastaldi on The Lonely, Violent Beach, 1971. He directed a fistful of films around this time, including No, The Case is Happily Resolved, 1973, in which his brother Enrico Maria Salerno was the star. His credits dried up in the 1980s. Giancarlo Giannini made his film debut in Libido. Born in 1942, Giannini started his acting career on stage before moving to pictures. After this role, he would work with such names as Alberto Latuada in Fräulein Doctor, 1969, Mauro Bolognini in The Murray Affair, 1974, Luchino Visconti in L'Innocente, 1976, Elio Petri in Buone Notizie, and Lina Wertmüller in Love and Anarchy, 1973, Swept Away, 1974, and Seven Beauties, 1975. He transitioned into American films in the 1980s, appearing in Francis Ford Coppola's New York Stories, 1989, in the segment entitled Life Without Zoe, Alfonso Auro's A Walk in the Clouds, 1995, Guillermo del Toro's Mimic, 1997, Ridley Scott's Hannibal, 2001, plus Casino Royale, 2006, and Quantum of Solace, 2008, where he played Mathis. Giannini was nominated for an Oscar for his work in Seven Beauties and earned the reputation abroad as a distinguishing Italian actor, an accolade which saw him dubbing Jack Nicholson's part in The Shining for the Italian release, a role chosen for him by Stanley Kubrick. Giannini would appear in one more giallo film, The Black Belly of the Tarantula. Dominique Bouchereau plays Helena, Christian's concerned wife. She was born in 1934. A lot of her career was spent flip-flopping between Italian and French co-productions. Her other giallo film contributions include The Iguana with the Tongue of Fire, 1971, and Who Saw Her Die, 1972. Mara Maril plays the aloof Bridget and practically steals the show when she is on screen. It's a wonder why with her figure that Mara did not appear in even more Italian films. Born in 1939, married to Gastaldi in 1960, Mara would work with her husband on numerous of his screenplay endeavors, including the giallo The Scorpion with Two Tails, 1982. The ensemble cast is rounded out by Luciano Pigozzi, billed as his usual alias of Alan Collins. This is arguably his best role. Pigozzi was born in 1928 and usually was cast in smaller parts where his sinister facial features could be exploited. But here, in a major role, Pigozzi is able to demonstrate his true acting chops throughout the film. He was often seen in the films of Bava and Margheriti, and his other giallo credits include Blood and Black Lace, 1964, All the Colors of the Dark, and The Case of the Bloody Iris, both 1972. Libido was filmed in 18 days, and its plot borrows from Les Diaboliques, 1955, and The Pit and the Pendulum, 1961, from Roger Corman. The film saw little success outside of its native Italy, which is an absolute shame. The film has been regarded for its excellent style, its use of black and white, and its ending. Fun fact, Franco Nero was also considered for the lead part of Christian, or Christian. Unfortunately, through my research, I wasn't able to find any information really regarding the budget or the film's initial reception upon its release. Better luck next time. Please like this video, share it with your friends if they are horror fans or cinephiles, subscribe to The King in Giallo if you haven't yet, and if you have any questions, thoughts, curiosities, or concerns, leave those below in the comments section and I will get back to you. Give The King in Giallo a follow on Instagram and a like on Facebook. Next time on The King in Giallo will be the review and Gialli Tally for Blood and Black Lace as well as for Libido. Thank you very much for your continued support. This is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time.
Torno subito.
Oh, quando ce ne andiamo da questo motello?
No, non muovere i pezzi, cara, sto vincendo.